Start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mochler. Here. Graylobe.
Oops, here.
Smith.
Here.
Teasy.
Here.
Heyman.
Here. And are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
This motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any visitors to be heard? Then Linnea Olson, you are up for the abatement application from Pulse of Life Church. Yay.
And I apologize, Jeff, you didn't have it sent to you in your email. Yes. What questions did you guys have there? Start.
I think the big question at the last meeting was, whether they were eligible for the tax abatement. There was a question as to whether the IRS had expended their tax free status.
That mainly is which tax incentive status they're looking for. There was two. And on the application that we had in our packet, there was an application by the church. I think we're granting one as a daycare center.
As a what, Dick?
And I think what we were doing was granting them one as a daycare center. Even though on the page where we submitted it, it says church. That was my main question, is that which pew are we sitting here?
Yeah, what entity?
Yeah.
Well, I can at least be the starter from that. My understanding of what I've located in law is 1018.1 is the controlling abatement statute. And it says, this is going to be specifically under subsection 3, I believe is where this fits. So it says, unless otherwise expressly provided, if a person against whom an assessment has been made or a tax levied claims that the assessment or tax or any part of the assessment or tax is invalid for any reason provided in subdivisions 1 through 6 inclusive, the assessment or tax may be abated. That would be applicable here, or the tax refunded if paid. The Board of County Commissioners may abate or refund in whole or in part the invalid assessment or tax in the following cases only. Here, subsection 3 is if the complainant or the property is exempt from the tax. That chapter 1018 doesn't give any exemptions, so I think it's makes sense, and I'm sure this is the intention, is to then go back to chapter 10.4, which I've also now provided you some statutes found in 10.4 that are specific to exemptions for benevolent organizations, religious organizations. And that's kind of where we're probably living at when it comes to making a determination. Is first determination we need to make is whether or not they are exempt under one of these statutes. I didn't find anything in statute that specifies, how the form is filled out, how much authority to give that. Really, I think we're just my interpretation is we need to determine whether or not they fit under the mold of 10.4.9 or 10.4.9.2. And then making a decision appropriately from there.
You guys talk over your microphone. They're having a hard time hearing you guys.
Yes.
I'm sorry about that.
So we've already made that determination though, right?
Yes, so when they applied for tax exempt status, the process with that is that exempt application comes to me, I present it to you at the county board level, and you approved their exempt status at the county board level.
Right. And the other question was is that they were really eligible as of this October something or another. And they were asking for an exemption for the entire second half of taxes. And as I understand it, we can, it's okay for us to exempt all or part of that,
Correct.
part, and they're asking for the whole.
Is that right?
Yeah, the whole second half.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that was
July-
$5,536.02. Yeah. And so Michael, it's your determination that they are eligible. Perhaps not for the reason on the application, but that's immaterial. They are eligible.
I think it's more complicated than that.
Oh,
Um,
I was afraid of that.
of course. In fact, I think it would be appropriate to go into probably a short executive session for me to at least parse out potentials why there may or may not be concerns doing what you do before you guys vote. So I would think that is appropriate to do before. I want to, of course, give as much as I can in the open meeting as well. But I think there will come a time, and maybe now is appropriate to just do it on the front end, just to parse out potential concerns that I see when you guys make a decision as to why there may be some concern, either way you go, from a legal perspective. So unless there's any objection to doing that now, I would like to at least advise you in an executive session as to really what the potential ramifications are with either vote.
I'm gonna move to table the abatement until later in the meeting,
Okay.
Oh,
so we can
okay.
do that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. And, to be clear, my only reason for bringing it up is that discrepancy between what the application had said and what appears to be it's happening. And whether it's appropriate to forgive all or part of that second.
Absolutely.
And I think that should be a decision on our part, collectively, not necessarily, it's not something we should put on you, I think that proposing to forgive all of the half, that second half taxes is appropriate at your point, but I think it's something that we should decide.
Absolutely. And I believe in statute that gives you the authority.
Yeah, we have.
Absolutely.
Right.
Great. Well, then why don't we have a motion to table for
Second.
now? Okay. So, motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. So we'll just table this until the latter part of the meeting. We'll do an executive session.
Great. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. Steve Rod, we were gonna do some flood updates.
Morning.
Good morning.
So we opened up the Wakanda oil yesterday afternoon. Minimal damage, luckily. Three potholes. We had to fix the asphalt and couple driveways washed out. We're gonna have to do some shouldering, but the road is open, safe. We had a lot of trees to haul out of there, but yeah, we got minimal damage on that road. 306, the Vollen Road. Maybe tomorrow. The water's going down pretty good. A lot of trees, debris. I drove in there this morning. We have west of the bridge, we have one spot about the size of a pickup box. The asphalt lifted off. That's the only spot I can see. Right now, there's still out of the river in front of it, so we're gonna have to get someone in there with a long reach. To get those out again. 309th Street. Which goes by. Mr. Teasy's house, that's still closed, that's gravel. And 300th Street east of 19 to the north. That's still closed, that has. A lot of damage on it, but basically it's. Gravel, I guess, it's gravel wash. So basically, we can pull some of that back out of the ditch and blend it in. And a good bleeding and wood trees. And so we're looking pretty good on that. Right now, the biggest worry I have is University Road at 312th Street. Well, in between 311 and 313 is closed, but 312 dead ends into it, and that intersection is closed. And we're working on that bridge, the deck, and it was. Looks like it was at least 3 feet underwater, the whole bridge. In the Vermillion River up in Turner County, 8 to 10 feet of scour around the pilings. So we want to make sure it's safe to open to begin with. So we also have 27 structures, including that one, on an emergency inspection list through the state. And so that's, FEMA helps pay for that, plus this year's our year to get our bridges inspected anyway, but this pushes them to the front of the list. We don't have to wait till later. So water starts receding and there'll be a work order come through. You guys will need to sign, and then they'll get on they're working on the Vermillion River pretty much all the way from Vermillion Lake all the way down here to the Missouri. So, and I have the Clay Creek bridges on that list and the Frog Creek structures. They're the ones that took past water very deep. And of course, this bridge here has logs up against it, pretty good sized one. There's a root ball about 10 feet on the east side of the bridge. And the tree goes about another 20 feet to the west side, so that'll be interesting. So there's some pressure there. And earlier pictures at the last meeting, there's a lady sitting in the back. She showed me kayaking across the bridge, and a tree that's now level with the guardrail was about 12 feet above the guardrail. So there's been a lot of pressure against that one too. River is going down, which is a good thing. I noticed the railroad bridge out here when I came up to the meeting. You still can't see their little dike they built, whether it's still there or not, I'm not sure, but.
I thought they
It,
tore all that out.
did they get it all out?
They said they did, or somebody said they tore all that out.
Yeah, I was thinking it was still under there, but anyway, you can see a lot of the bridge plank they have for support under there, so it's dropped quite a bit there. But we're working on 315th Street west of the bluff and 313th west of the bluff. We have 2 bridges there that go across Clay Creek. They're there now. Blading the road looks like all we're gonna have to do. We just have a ton of corn stalks, alfalfa, and trees to clean up. There's a lot of alfalfa in windrows. First time that we've cleaned alfalfa that ain't in a bale. You know, we do have a couple bridges with bales stuck under. So, you know, unfortunately, they weren't in the channel, so we'll have to get them out of there. But like 3/15, which would be east of Freeburg's hay sheds, where it comes to the bluff. I was on that bridge yesterday and there's debris 7 feet above the bridge rail in the trees. That's how far under that bridge. That does not have piling. That sits on abutments. So the engineer said the abutments look good, so we're good to go on that bridge and the one over 313, which has trees laying on the deck. And so, I mean, it got pretty deep down there too. So. Other than that. I think that's about where we're sitting. We have four roads sections still closed at this time. 315, 313. They removed the barricades anyway, so we left the road closed signs, road damage, but they've been driving around. But today they'll be officially opened. Other than that, that's about all I got. Just saying what I can see right now, I think we got pretty lucky on road damage, like on the oil road. So just to show you know, Wakanda Oil, 302nd and the Volun Oil are not covered under FEMA. That is ER. They're a federal aid road, but the debris from the trees and any debris we pick up under there, FEMA will cover that. So the road damage I have turned into a different, but it has to meet a threshold, I think like $7,000, and either one of those roads won't have that much damage. I did drive in the water, shallow water, until I got to the Fleximat. And it is still there.
That's
And
what I wanted to ask you.
it's doing its job. One spot, it washed off the asphalt on the road. That's the spot with the pickup box. And it got under the Fleximat and it took the dirt out from under it. So we got a dip, but the Fleximat is still there. So yes, I believe in the future, when this goes down, whether, I don't know who was on the board when we tried to FEMA would, or ER would not pay for it. They wanted me to put riprap there and they only give us so much money. And I think we did $80,000 worth of this Fleximat, and now I wish we did. But where we don't have Fleximat right now, the road is no erosion either because we had good stand of grass. But yesterday the wind was out of the south and we're getting wave action coming up, and that's usually worse than the water running over the road. But the Fleximat is working. I think that's something we need to use in the future. I'd much rather see that Fleximat where you can drive off the road and not hit giant riprap. You know, and we'd have had to dig so deep to get that riprap. This is what, 4 inches deep and it's 12 feet wide. And what it is plastic basically, and it's actually recycled plastic with little diamond square pyramid looking pieces of concrete. And you just unroll it, staple it down and let everything come up, you know, the grass. So that we laid it in 2020. So it's been there for 4 years. So it had grass. We're able to mow over it. Just can't let anybody burn it. But yeah, I think that was money well spent.
We have some saplings coming up, bigger.
Yeah, we usually keep them mowed off. So, you know, we laid on the steeper part east of city. When we lost those, then you get a fiber blanket and it actually has willows in it. And dwarf willows or something, they only grow so long, but that helps stabilize the bank. And that works pretty good, but this erodes. So we need something, and I believe we had conservation. I believe they seeded it first. If I remember right, I think we had that seeded first. So, but yeah. Larry and I discussed it yesterday that we need to, and we bid it. Every year it's on our bid now. So I mean, when this goes down, if it looks like we need to do a stretch. We might order something, and they usually have it pretty. On hand in Sioux Falls, that company just asked me about used to be Brock White Cap, so that's where we get it through, plus True North Steel is handling it too, so we got a couple places, but. No, right, unless something's very surprises me, we're sitting pretty good, a lot better than we have been in the past. So,
Does it look like we've got candidates for using the Fleximat this year?
yeah, that's when the water gets off of here, it's to the west yet where the water is still running is the end of the Fleximat. And then down by the just east of 19 between that first, it washed over there too, but it's not as bad as it is east in between the two bridges. And we only put it on the south side, and till that water gets out of there, we get a north wind. It's that it ain't running over the road, it's flashing up against it. So we're gonna look at that close and see if we need to lay some in there. I don't know how much asphalt paving we're gonna get done this year. So, I mean, we got money in the budget to do some of that, and best time to do it is when the water goes down before the next time instead of waiting until the next time, so. We'll keep you abreast on that, but it'll be next week sometime before we get the full damage, you know. The bridges are my main concern right now, especially that one they're working on, so. Other than that, we took out a bridge many years ago below where Bob Gregoire used to live. And the county there's either 4 or 5 large culverts there, which is, they put them in there, they spaced them, so it's still on our inspection list. And there's probably 12 semi loads of trees up against there, and those pipe are running as full as they can get, but we gotta get the roads open before we get to them, and nobody can travel that road anyway, but. So we have a big pile of trees. We should be able to get it with our excavator there, cause it ain't very deep, so. Between the excavator and our backhoe, except for at the bridges, we've been able to do everything ourselves so far. That's all I have.
All right. Thank
Any
you.
questions, any concerns? You seen something I missed? Dave told me about a wing barricade that came up missing, so on up there and see if that, somebody decided they wanted that for their man cave or what.
I was gonna ask you, just east of me, is that a bad culvert?
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
over there?
when the water gets out of there, we're gonna put a metal pipe in there. It's a concrete one and it's separated there. We did a temporary fix the first time, and of course,
I didn't like.
temporary, you know, so yeah, we also have to replace a culvert by the A-frame house on 313th, no, yeah, 313th. Mr. Woods, I think.
Yeah, Bob Woods.
Yeah. So right, we have a bridge right there and the pipe is rusted out on the south side, caved in on the end. We fixed that. But there's also a wick barricade sitting there. So, but that's a metal pipe, so. So we have to replace that. That's so far the only culverts we've come across, so. But the water gets down and I'm sure there's gonna be more. Lot of corn stalks and tree debris to clean up everywhere. So you'll be seeing the green dump trucks and the side truck, they'll all be headed for the landfill. So if you're wondering what we're hauling and it looks weird, that's gonna be flood debris, so.
So I went to the North Sioux City Town Council meeting last night. And I was reminded what a good indicator of flood height corn stalks are. Old corn stalks that have been excavated and laid out on the land surface.
It's quite a bit there by exit to it.
Yes, there is, and to the east and northeast and northwest. It's quite a
Well,
trip.
I would think right now the Clay Creek is very clean. There can't be another tree that isn't green standing left. Cause we have pulled trees and the Vermillion River, that never cleans out, but Yachts Bridge has caught a bunch and we haven't even got to Larson's. The one south of the one we're working on University and then to the east. I did not make it there yesterday. I'm sure there's a pile of trees there again too, so. And also the, is Lane in here? Lane, who actually owns those river gauges? Is that the Corps or is that National Weather? Or who actually,
It's USGS.
okay, cause they were working on the one north of Vermillion yesterday. And I didn't know he was down over the edge. I didn't know, did it take it out of there? Is that gauge?
No,
Okay.
it's all run in a tube. And
Right,
when you see those great big, just one jumps, that means there's debris. in the tube.
okay,
So there-
cause he was hanging over the edge. He was tied off, but I went back by. And I mean, he looked like he was busy, so I didn't bother him, but I never noticed what it said on. Do you know why there isn't a gauge on 306 anymore on the river? Everything is still there. Like the tube and there's like electrical wires there that look like a dome. And I don't know if somebody stole it, but you know, I mean, I would think they would know. They must have discontinued that one.
Must have. I don't know the timeline, but I think Tim Cowman. They're in the process, they're gonna end up putting quite a few gauges on it.
Okay.
Like they did with the Big Sioux. It's probably gonna take a little.
Right.
But eventually it'll be monitored like the Big Sioux.
Yeah, I just happened to see he was out there yesterday. Working on that, had it going off and. But like I said, I can never remember who owns it.
Yeah, CS Geological Survey.
So apparently he's getting that one opened up. I never looked at that gauge to see if it actually was working. You'll have one on Dakota Street Bridge or anything? That's the lowest one?
The one by Cheney's house is.
So that's the lowest on our end.
What's going on or down around Saginaw? Still eroding or?
Still there. Andy.
Yeah,
Andy
he,
went and counted rows last night. And I still think it was like 130.
131, I believe.
Yes.
Same as it was on,
The afternoon on my way to North Sioux too, but they're
You-
still. From the row of green flags, whatever color those are. Yeah, like it's a little change from the last time I'd been down there a couple of days ago.
Yeah, the biggest thing about Saginaw now is the water. you know, gets forced in and eaten away, as it comes out, it's gonna do the same thing. So the chance of slumping is still pretty strong there, because I haven't been by there. I'm assuming the water's still up against the bank.
That's the new channel.
Yeah,
Is it?
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It deposited sediment
Oh,
To
on the
the
edge,
west.
against the west side.
so on the west side of the Hines, so it is a big S through there. So,
Nice big sand dune on the inside of the tree.
Yeah, I drove by it yesterday. I mean, just looking from the road, it appeared to be pretty close. And I thought Andy said it was the same as last Thursday or something, like 131 rows or.
Yeah.
I can't,
137
hundred
yesterday,
thirty-seven.
and we were 148 or 147 morning after we closed them, so we haven't lost. Haven't lost that much, you know, what, 5-6 days, but still quite a
So-
bit.
What is it doing going south in that curve? Is it taking that too?
I haven't been down there to look.
Yeah, that's,
I say that I thought it looks like it's moving, it's cutting up north more, because I lived down on the Ponderosa, so I can come that way. And it's getting closer to that house that is just north of there. So it looks like it's cutting in there more, maybe not in deeper, but closer to that.
Andy? Did you have any comments?
I was just gonna mention that it does seem like it's cutting there, but it's not threatening the road quite as quickly as it is Saginaw, you know, it's quite a ways away from Missouri Street in comparison to how close it is to Saginaw. So that's been my concern, is just what's happening there at Saginaw.
is Missouri Street the one that east and west on the south end?
Yeah, it's
Okay, that's the
right
first,
there.
okay.
and I think it was 14 rows that we lost over the weekend. I mean, Travis knows how wide a row is, what is it, 20 some inches?
30.
30 inches, so you can kind of guess it there, but it did slow down. You remember that first day that we closed it, it was going at a pretty aggressive rate. That slowed down quite a bit. So just been kind of monitoring it, mainly out of concern for Saginaw, and also because people keep asking me.
So I have a question, I guess, as long as we're talking about that. How close do we let it get to the road if it continues? We get some more rain and it cuts before. I mean, I would like to do something before it gets to the road ditch.
that may be a question for Michael to look into a
And that's
little bit,
private
because
property.
that's all private property.
So Larry and I were just talking about that yesterday. That, you know, the county has not a very big pile of concrete that we could dump there. We're gonna have to get trucks in there with riprap if this keeps coming, and if we get bigger rains up north. I mean, right now it looks like we're fine, but boy, that when the other night we're down there, wasn't it like 40 some rows at a whack? It was falling off. And that's only 3 sections, and we're gonna be right to the road ditch, so.
It's when the water goes down is the right time to do that.
Right, and.
So,
But if
I'm
it's
just
the new
saying,
channel, that may not ever happen.
yeah, that's true.
And
Well, stabilizing at the new channel. I guess
Right.
that's what I'm saying, and it would take quite a length also, since we're on the outside of a big radius. Of the deal, it's gonna take a lot of length there to stabilize that.
and again, that's gonna come down to a Michael decision, because that's private property.
You know, we're talking half a mile.
Oh, yeah. And my guess is that private property would be pretty willing to let us, but whether we could legally do that ourselves is another.
They wanted to let us the other night.
Sure, I know.
no, they didn't wanna let us, they
We're
Yeah.
ordering.
wondered how
Yeah, but-
come we weren't out
The
there.
private property, those two owners weren't here.
Yeah, yeah, Linnea's had her hand up.
I actually, I wish I had connect up our flyover. You should see how spread it got from 16 to 19.
Right.
So like looking at what's happening now, it started in 2019 with that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
It's
We flew whenever that was last month. Wednesday was the meeting, wasn't it? We flew last Wednesday and then I had Connect Up to show the differences there to show for the commission meeting last Wednesday.
We got about $2 million, a little over $2 million in that little stretch of road. And that's what, $2015? I'd sure hate to see from
Is that when we did that road?
2015, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And as part of all this, I am asking for an executive session to speak about some of this stuff. Michael and I found the law that would pertain to it, so. It's about emergency management work on public and private lands.
Okay. Now, to expand on the problem down there, is that, now we have kind of a hemisphere that circle it. And nature's way is to continue out and then until it finally closes off and leaves that as an oxbow, like Burbank Lake. And then establish a new channel in another location. So we can expect further erosion there because that's pretty immutable nature's law.
Yeah.
On the USGS stream gauging stations, when I started at Geological Survey in 1976, between there and about 85, we lost lots statewide of stream gauges because of budget cuts.
Yeah.
USGS decided that was one place that they could kind of thin the number of stream gauging stations without losing their predictive power or their not necessarily predictive power in that sense, but at least establishing what the river had done in the past. The new ones are state owned
Yeah.
gauging stations, so hopefully we'll be able to keep a pretty dense net because I think that's pretty important.
Yeah, and Tim spoke about it up in Aberdeen. We're up at the floodplain management class that the Big Sioux's done now and the Vermilion's. So we'll be in quite a few additional.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks, Lance.
Thank you. So the next thing on the agenda is the discussion of the opt-out resolution. Harry gave us a bunch of scenarios along with the budget. And I think, what is it, July 15th is the deadline. And are we meeting again before the 15th? We're-
16.
Yeah, so today's the day. And I guess what makes me nervous, and I think everybody needs to weigh in on this, is the size of cash reserves left. And it's all predictive, but if we had no opt-out, it would be like 16.35% of the operating budget is what our reserves would look like. And if we were a bigger county with a much larger budget, 16% isn't bad, but given the size of our budget, that's a substantial amount of money. And that makes me really uncomfortable. I mean, what did Carrie say? She likes to see 25-30%. We couldn't get to that without having an enormous opt-out. So we're going to have to choose a scenario here.
Well, we did it with 13% last year. I mean, we can do it. I think this budget is, we can do it to 16% and not opt out. I think we owe it to the taxpayers. They need a break. You just can't be giving money away this year, though.
Yeah, and I think though that
Travis,
what's
sorry.
nice about this number is that it is it is based on, you know, the current budget. Right, so it's based on the 2025 budget as Carrie has assembled it.
We have somebody trying to.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I was just going to share that I had somewhat similar thoughts to Travis, just reviewing last year's and seeing where we were discussing there. I haven't been through the budget cycle very many times, so I think that because I've just made it through, we're making it through 1 year on that budget, and we had been all right with 16% as our estimated cash reserves last year, that it made me less scared, but that might just be somewhat inexperience. You know, I don't think that I think that I wouldn't expect that we would slash anything out of the budget that was in there last year. So I was going to follow up on the question of giving money away. I don't think we did any of that in this last year. So I just would hope that when we come to the final budget discussions, that the sorts of programs we decided were essential, even if not mandated, the food programs and the library funding, I think I would want to make sure that that still stays in there, but I don't think that that really is anything that we're near on the scale of changing that percentage that we're talking about. You know, I think any of those programs when we're talking about, the impact on cash reserve is like 16.18 versus 16.14 or 16.25, something like that. So as long as going with no opt-out doesn't force us to slash anything beyond what we've cut already, then I would be comfortable with going with no opt-out.
I agree with that. With the no opt-out to give the taxpayers a break. Just, I've read through the budget, proposed budget. I think, like Jeffrey, I'm not an expert by this by all means, but I think, the Carrie's, everybody's involved was generous on the budget, so I'm for no opt-out. Our biggest kind of wild card is that public defender stuff. Hopefully we can cut back there.
That one is the one that's the really big single item increase. And that's the part that would concern me the most. And we have at least part of the year of double dipping in prisoner care. That's the other part that there would be a bit of an issue to me. That's Andy's the one that knows that part. He's budgeted for that, I assume. So
Yeah, Andy had said earlier that he budgeted pretty conservatively there, not counting on a lot of revenue. So that kind of, I think, works in our favor.
those comments were from the time we opened the jail forward. Yep. But at least early next year, we'll end up needing to board elsewhere as well as pay our bond. What's our anticipated time now for opening the jail?
It's still November. That's all they'll tell me, because that is their day.
Yeah.
It's when they have to be done. November 1st plus, or sometime in November plus 14 days that they got added on so far because of weather.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's November 1st is the day or November 30th. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And then we gotta add 30,000 to the ambulance
Right.
on top of the 40 that's budgeted in there right now.
And, there again, that's, 0.1% of the half of the 0.05 of the budget, essentially.
Yeah, but we start adding,
You add them all together and it adds up.
I mean, every year we always have, there's always something.
That's right. And that's, I guess I was I was more in favor of slashing the opt-out we had last year, 600K. And like go back down to 1/3 of that to 200K, something like that, just in case. Which would cover this public defender issues that we have, that we really have no good idea. So my thought was to, rather than worry about telling the highway department they had to not do something mid-year next year, we're already talking about cutting asphalt and that sort of thing. But at least put a couple $100K. So, yes, I'm concerned with like you with about giving the taxpayers a break. But maybe making sure that we give them a break, but not have the risk of cutting really vital service. Might be a good idea. And I agree with Jeffrey too, that the non-mandated stuff that we put in, like library last year, that's a 0.1% or less, the whole thing. That's more like what, 0.3%.
Other thoughts?
Just one other on the public defender contract issue. I know in some of the discussions there've been, some of the discussions we've had, it sounded like there could be the possibility that depending on how the relationship with our public defender, with having court appointed attorneys instead of a public defender, could change other costs in the state's attorney's offices as well. Just things might not run as smoothly, and that could end up adding costs as well. So it's just an additional thought.
Yeah. And so in the event that we undershoot in terms of tax revenue, the really only place that the county has to go is to borrow money. That's an expensive proposition, because not only are you paying interest, but you're also paying an origination fee of some sort. You're probably selling tax anticipation notes. And that turns out to be pretty expensive. Depending on whether we think we can actually do it without an opt-out. If we think we can actually get through the year without an opt-out, yes, it's a good deal for the taxpayers, but if we're wrong, it's a really, really bad deal for the taxpayers, because they get nothing for something.
My dad always used to say, it's always smarter to borrow from yourself.
That is true in the sense that also next year, if we overshoot, then those end up padding our cash reserves and making it easier to do without an opt-out in the following year, I suppose.
Yeah, and I feel pretty certain that the following year we would not have an opt-out. And I think we'll have a little bit of room to breathe as well. But I think, to me, this looks like, just projecting forward the last really bad year. Jeffrey?
I was wondering what about the trend of opt-outs. So last year was $600,000 opt-out. What were the previous 2 years?
250 and 750.
250 and 750. Okay.
Other thoughts? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to do it without an opt-out. I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to not opt out. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Boys and Girls Club grant request. And we don't know what the grant is for. We have no information about the grant. You know, I understand why this came up now. But it seems to me in order to make a decision, we would need to see a grant. I mean, on a gut level, I think it's a, you know,
Reading just kind of a general support for their program or? Yeah, they're just looking for a verbal support right now.
well, actually what they're looking for is, according to the letter, is assurance that we would sign off on their grant and submit it in their behalf. But we haven't seen the grant. We don't know what it's for. And I am a personal donor to the Boys and Girls Club. I think that they are the best thing that's happened to this town in a long time. And I would certainly like to support them, but I don't feel like we could have a vote to support them without knowing what we're supporting.
It's a.
Yeah, maybe we can,
Sponsor the application for a CBD, Community Development Block Grant. To sponsor the application. To be submitted this fall. And this would be similar to what they wanted to do this last year. They formally need either the city or the county signature on the application to sponsor it. I don't know what the essentially co-pays of those sorts of grants are, if we'd be agreeing to money. For this, we don't really have an idea of that. I think that's the big open-ended question here.
Yeah, perhaps we could ask Andy Schultz and the executive director to come to the next meeting. Would that make sense?
Seems to me.
Okay.
I'd like to.
I just think we need a little more information.
Are they expecting funding from us?
Yeah. Well, they're around September 1 is when they would be preparing their application. So if we could ask them to come and at least give us a letter outlining what they expect of us, or show up at one of our meetings, even later this month would be appropriate, I think.
Andy wants to speak.
Oh, Andy?
I was just gonna make an observation. Dick and Dave, you both talk very softly and far from your mic, so you're really hard to hear out here. And I don't know if Jeff's having the same issue. Travis and Betty, you project great and you're close to your mic, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Kind of shy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we all know Dave Shy.
Use your outside voice.
All right. So, yeah, let's invite them to come to the next meeting and, tell us a little bit. And again, I don't know that we can have a formal vote, but we could have a consensus, enough for them to go ahead and, get the work done.
Sure. I think that what I think we would ask for is an idea of what they intend to apply for, and what they want besides our signature as
Yeah.
far as sponsorship.
Great. All right.
Is that loud enough, Andy?
Better, yes, thanks.
I moved my mind.
I can see Jeff leaning into his screen too, so I know I'm not alone.
Well, thanks for the heads up.
All right. So next on the agenda is vouchers.
We didn't get any, did we?
Yeah, they're at the tail end of the packet, the
Oh,
meeting
for this,
packet. Yeah, there are not a lot of them. It's one page. There, I mean, I didn't see any, anything we didn't. Yeah. And they were all the usual. Well, I think it was 28,000 altogether, but it's a pretty short list. So you take a minute. somebody can make a motion whenever they're
I
ready.
motion to pay the vouchers. Second.
It was a motion and a second to pay the vouchers. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Jeffrey, anything on Clay County Park?
I don't know if you heard you.
Jeffrey? Anything
if
on
you could
Clay
hear-
County Park?
Nothing new. Nope.
Okay, great. Building project updates? No.
Nothing new.
Joint jurisdiction?
We did have a meeting, last Thursday and, we're getting set up to hold some public meetings. We have something put together, maps and a, verbiage in the comprehensive plan, a draft, dated June 27th. And, we intend, mainly next month, have a couple of public meetings. I'll lean in here, Andy. So that we can gain some input from the public and from the residents of joint jurisdiction. That we would then, do another further amendment based on that, input. And then take that to the full planning commission of both entities, both the city and the county. And then those proposals would end up on our desk here.
Right. Sounds
So
like
we're-
progress.
We're a couple months out from us acting on it, probably 3 months out, but our meeting frequency slowed down quite a bit. So there was Sean, our guy from CCOG that's been doing the legwork on this for us. He's had a lot of other issues that have kind of slowed that process down from where we were having one a week there for a while, and then one every couple of weeks, and then one a month, and then one a month and a half or so without a meeting. But we want to quicken the pace again and finish this thing up.
Great. Is there a place where the public can view that?
I don't know that we have anything on our website or on the cities yet. It's, but that's something that we will have out within a week or two, I think.
Great.
I'm not sure of that timing, but there were some other, especially in the maps, there were some inaccuracies that we found there. And one map was completely needed to be redone. And so there's some things there we wanted to make sure that it was accurate before we, as close as we know at this point, before we end up putting it out on websites. But
Great.
yeah, welcome public input as well as everybody's input at this point. Once we get that those versions out.
Great. All right. And then I guess we need an executive session, and that would be,
So I'll move to go into executive session for legal, and was there a contractual one?
There's legal, and then also for the request from Lane would be for discussing information pertinent to the protection of public or private property and any person on or within public or private property specific to emergency management or response.
So that fall under legal too.
It's technically it's a separate subdivision of the statute that permits executive session, but
Okay.
that'd be, I guess, it'd be legal. And then also what I mentioned, specific to emergency management.
Okay.
all right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
All right, so is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
It's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are out of executive session. We've got one item left on the agenda, which is the abatement application from Pulse of Life Church. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the abatement in the amount of $1,845.34. And that is 2 months. That's November, December of the second half.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Is there any other business?
Move to adjourn. Second.
It's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks. Thank you guys. I learned a lot. As
Yeah.
did I.
Yeah,